Good evening. Welcome to the 828th meeting, Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Please note that if you wish to be heard at this meeting, please sign the speakers list provided on the City of Laurel's website or contact staff. The chairman reserves the right to limit the amount of time each speaker has for each agenda item. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff of the commission, and any consultants used are on file with the city and are hereby made a part of each and every application heard today. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the commission are also made a part of each and every application. Each application heard today is considered on its own merit and is not to be considered as establishing precedents for any other application. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Colquhoun,
Here.
Councilmember Les,
Here.
Ms. Miccine,
Here.
Ms. Lubinecki,
Here.
Ms. Frazier,
Here.
Ms. Rambo, Mr. Davis.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'd like to open up the discussion for the February 18th, 2020 meeting. I'll start with Ms. Lubinecki. Do you have any questions or comments about those meetings?
No. About the minutes, no.
Okay. Ms. Miccine,
No.
Ms. Frazier,
I was not present.
Mr. Davis,
No.
Councilman Les.
I'm fine.
I move we approve the minutes as presented. This is Margie. I move we approve the minutes as presented.
It's Mike, I'll second.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion to approve by Ms. Miccine and a second by Councilman Les. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Mr. Colquhoun,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier,
Abstain.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I would like to move agenda item number 3 for HDC 055, 056, and 057 2020 and move to agenda item number 4, HDC 060 2020 for 502 Main Street.
Mr. Chair, would you like staff to start presenting?
I apologize. I would like to move HDC 055, 056, and 057 and move to the next agenda item, HDC 060 2020 for 502 Main Street, if the staff would like to present that.
believe Mr. Burrow will be presenting.
Hey, Rob, I have 504.
Josh, are you there?
Look, this is Mike. Let me just comment about the sign while we're waiting to get him on the line. I have no trouble with the sign, except I think if we're going to be consistent up and down Main Street with signage, we need to ask the applicants and Signorama, and they all know it, to use the scallop corners on the border. It's something that's not, it's a minor issue, but it brings some consistency and some unity to the different signs that are going up and down Main Street. But that's I mean, this is a difficult location. And I know we've had 4 or 5 things in there over the years. So I want this applicant to be a success. And that's the only thing I see. I mean, some people might object to the type of type they're using. But again, I'm more interested in the consistency from sign to sign as opposed to type to type. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Hi, this is Karen Lubinecki. Mike, could you clarify by what you mean by scallop?
Yeah, those scallops that have, if you go back to, if you go back to Patrick's sign, they've got, and his sign's got those scallops in the border, in the corner. The sign itself might be square or rectangular or whatever, but they add those scallops as a design touch. And if you go up and down Main Street, a lot of the signs have those scallops. And I know each sign's going to be different because each business is looking to make sure they're out there so people can see their sign. But I think those scallops bring some design integrity sign to sign. So that's what I'm talking about, Karen. And I don't know, the scallops are, geez, it might only be
Yeah,
2 inches, or you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was able to look at my exclusive blue.
Okay.
Sorry, but that is not a requirement.
No, it's not a requirement. It is a design suggestion. That's all.
Mr. Chair, staff is ready to present the staff report.
Okay, staff, please present the report and then we'll open it up for question comments.
Hello, Commission. My name is Joshua Mitchum, Planner 2 with ECD. I will be presenting the staff report for 502 Main Street. So the applicant is seeking HDC Commission approval to install a wall sign for the storefront. The wall sign will measure 16.25 feet by 2.42 feet, or in total 39.33 square feet. The sign will have a black border and a black text saying Five Café and Frozen Treats against a white background. The sign is not indicated to be illuminated. The current ice cream shop on 502 Main Street has an awning above 2 windows on its front facade, and the applicant intends to remove the existing awning and place the proposed sign in the exact same location. Let me see here. The proposed actions requested by the applicant appear to meet the requirements established in Division 14 of the Design Guidelines for the Historic District Commission, and staff recommends that the HDC approve certificate number 06-2020. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Joshua. All right, we'll open it up to the commission. Margie, you want to have any questions or comments about this? I know you had a few questions that you presented earlier.
I do. So I've noticed that the current awning covers the top of the windows. Is the new sign going to cover the tops of the windows?
Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Hamilton. I'm the applicant. I just wanted to let you know that I am here if you have questions directly for us, but I did not mean to interrupt.
Okay, so that's a question for you then.
Yes, so we were going to maintain the metal structure that the Hershey sign is currently hanging on, so that there are no structural changes. It's just a piece of existing vinyl that would be taken off that structure and new vinyl adhered in its place.
So you're replacing the awning as opposed to putting up a flat sign?
Right, we're actually, yes, we're not replacing the awning, we're just replacing the vinyl, essential large sticker that is on the existing awning. The metal structure would stay intact.
Oh, okay. I mean, because I feel like when we approved moving the awning, because it was on another building, I think we didn't realize it was going to cover up part of the windows.
It does cover about 2 inches. It's not much of the window. I will say it doesn't affect the amount of lighting that comes in the front, but I can't speak to any additional concerns.
Okay. I mean, I think it doesn't look very good is my comment on that.
Have you seen the new rendering? With the new rendering being pretty white, it almost matches the white framing of the window. I think it looks a little bit less out of place than the current sign.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping the existing metal structure makes the project about 1/3 as costly.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
Okay, so just going back to the material it's going to use, it's going to be vinyl over the existing framing. I'm sorry, this is Chairman Rob Colquhoun. And that question, I guess, is directed to Ms. Hamilton.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, this is Chairman Rob Colquhoun. I want to know the material. Is it going to be fabric that's going to go over the existing framework that's canopy is on now?
The existing material is 75% vinyl, which means it's a vinyl that's not quite see-through. And so the company is going to peel the existing vinyl off and put a new vinyl on. And a vinyl is just like a large sticker meant for outdoor use.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Lubanecki, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
Yeah, and I'd actually like to follow up on Ms. Miccine's point. I do remember when this was moved from an existing shop that was someplace else, and in an effort, because they had prior sign approval from their previous building, it was applicable for this structure. However, this is actually a new sign application, and I am as concerned as Ms. Miccine is, especially since this is not actually a flat porch sign. It's actually going another awning on it, that it's going over the windows, and it's basically disproportionate to, seems to me that it's actually quite disproportionate to the building, that the sign should be about feet in on either side to kind of fit in the structure of the building. So I have some, I don't think the fact that the awning structure is there is necessarily a plus. And I agree with Ms. Miccine that it really has some aesthetically has a real problem.
The staff or applicant to comment, concern?
Hi, good evening. This is Christian Pulley, Director speaking. I just wanted to reiterate what the applicant stated. Although the proposed sign appears to be covering part of the window, she did mention that it would be 1/3 of the cost of getting that fixed, and I would like the commission to consider the cost difference in getting that done at this time, during these times. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. We'll take that into consideration. Ms. Frazier, do you have any questions or comments for the staff?
I do. How far from the face of the building is the sign itself?
This is Lauren. We are not sure. I would guess about 8 to 10 feet.
Pardon? No, I mean the face of the awning where the sign would be. How far is that from the brick, the face of the building?
Oh, from the face of the building. I'm sorry. It's about 18 inches.
18
It's
inches?
enough that light would still come under. And it's a metal structure. The top is not enclosed, so rain falls through, light comes through.
The reason I'm asking is for someone walking or driving down the street, would that angle enable the person to see the top of the windows?
If you're walking, yes. If you're close to the building, yes.
That's all.
Okay, Mr. Davis, do you have any questions or comments for the staff or applicant?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Commissioner Davis. So just to keep things moving along here, I technically don't have a problem with what the applicant is requesting, although from a cost perspective, or is there an option to actually, I want to say, shrink the size of the overall length of the sign to make sure it kind of sits above the top of those two windows? Is that a feasible option?
That's a structural question. The frame seems to be intact as maybe 1 to 2 pieces. So if we were going to have a change the existing frame structure, it would probably behoove us to just pay to have it removed and have something else put in its place. But we did not cost out that option.
Okay, I will certainly like to entertain that option, but overall, I don't know whether or not the construction or the engineers are online, whether or not you had to actually redo it to make it less of a length and a little bit above the frame of the window. I think I would certainly not have an issue with that. But overall, I don't see a problem with the sign itself.
Okay, moving on to Councilman Les. Do you have any questions or comments for the staff or applicant?
No further comments.
Okay, Brooke, were you able to get all of the questions and comments? You don't need to repeat anything, do you?
No, I have everything.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ms. Libanecki. I just have one thing to point out, that the sign that the application that we have specifically says this is a flat wall sign. It doesn't say that it's an awning sign, and that would be a projecting sign. Wouldn't that be a projecting sign? So the application is really for something different than we're being asked to approve.
Well, the projecting part's already existing. So maybe
Well,
that's why.
Well, flat wall implies that it's flat against the wall, does it not?
Right. But the projecting part of the sign is already there. so it's not a new piece. I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Good evening again. This is Director Police speaking for the record. Even though the sign is protruding a little bit, it is not considered to be a projecting sign because most projecting signs are usually they're hanging, they're hanging or so forth. This is considered a sign. There is a small technicality, but this is considered a flat wall sign.
This is Chairman Clatoon. Yeah, I was questioning the material because I didn't think it was the standard flat wall sign that we were used to approving, but I understand why they want to use the existing structure, and probably by taking that structure down, it's going to leave a lot of holes and problems in the building. So I can see why they would want to keep the structure there and just the fabric on that structure. So if I don't have any other questions or comments, Brooke, I would like to see if we have a motion.
So this is Margie Miccine. I don't feel comfortable making a motion to approve it because I'd really like to know what the price comparison is, but between, and I still think of this as an awning, putting a new design on the awning versus removing it and putting up an actual flat sign.
So we had 2 quotes done. One, if we remove this sign and put something else in its place, was close to $3,700. And if we are able to replace the existing, we can get it down to about $1,700. We did not ask in detail what the damage would be to the building, but yes, if they took off the metal frame that's there now, there would be some repointing work that would need to be fixed in the brick area where the sign is currently adhered to.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions for the applicant and the commissioner?
This is Commissioner Davis, Patrick Davis. I would like to have a motion to approve the applicant's request.
Okay, do I have a second? Seeing that there's no second, I have a motion to table the agenda.
This is Margie. I move we table HDC 060-2020 and ask the applicant to come back with an option removing the awning that's there now and replacing it with a different, more appropriate sign.
Okay,
I'll second that. This is Karen Lubinecki. I'll second that.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion from Commissioner Miccine and a second from Commissioner Lubinecki to table the 060-2020. Can I get a roll call?
Ms. Miccine?
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki?
Yes.
Councilmember Les?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, this is Robert Love, Deputy Director. Just wanted to check, are you able to go back to item number 3 to present that, or are you saving that till the end?
I would think we should save it to the end if we can, and get some of these other agenda items off the table, if that's okay with staff.
That's fine. Just want some clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to move it to after HDC 074. Okay, moving on to item number 5, HDC 061 2020 for 26 Post Office Avenue. That would also include HDC 070 for 2020. I don't know if those two items are going to be presented together or separately, but maybe staff can clarify that.
Hi, this is Joshua Mitchum, Planner 2. I'm responsible for the report for 070 Post Office, or 26 Post Office. And I believe Monte Bros is going to be handling, 061 -2020 HDC.
Okay, is
Good
he
evening.
available?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow ACC members. HDC 061 2020, 26 Post Office Drive. Applicant is requesting to install a 100-foot concrete driveway to the back garage. It is staff's recommendation that HDC approve 061 2020. And that concludes the reading, Madam Chair. And the applicant should be on the phone for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open the agenda item up for any questions. Commissioner Miccine, you have any questions or comment for the staff of the applicant?
I do. So what was the access to the garage before construction started? Was it driving on the grass?
No, they had-
I am the applicant. Sorry. I apologize. Go ahead. Was that a question for me as applicant?
Yes.
I'm the applicant. I apologize. Sorry. Yes, it was just a mud track there, the regular grass. There was nothing there.
Okay, thank you.
Can the applicant please state his name for the record?
Sreekanth Rajagopal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miccine, any further questions for the applicant?
I do have one more. Have you considered doing two, concrete strips, like is more common in the neighborhood? At least leading from the street past the house until you get to the concrete pad. It seems like an awful lot of concrete.
We did consider that option, but considering the length of the driveway and the length the vehicle might have to go through mud tracks to get to the garage, it will end up dirtying that area with mud, which the homeowner might have to frequently clean, or it might actually look. We thought it might actually look better if we provided a fully concrete driveway.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Miccine. Chair Lubinecki, do you have any questions or comments for the staff or the applicant?
Yes, actually, I think Ms. Miccine and I are thinking along the same lines. I walked past the house today. to take a look at it. And the concept of putting 2 strips down to at least past the house seems to me far more desirable for the property. That otherwise we get a totally impermeable mass of concrete all the ways back, which is quite a distance back. And since many homeowners in this area manage to deal with 2 strips without any adverse effects, and in fact that's something much more preferable, I think we should encourage the applicant to go in the 2 concrete strips direction, with the understanding that a pad further back by the end of the house towards the actual garage would be appropriate myself. So I share Mr. Miccini's concerns about having too much concrete there.
Thank you, Commissioner Lubinecki. Would the applicant like to make a rebuttal to those comments?
Was a question directed at me? I'm sorry. This is the applicant, Sreekanth Rajagopal.
Yes, sir. Would you like to make a comment with regard to the request from the commissioners?
I definitely will take that into consideration if the commissioners intend that the overall picture with the historic district might be better.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Frazier, would you have any questions or comments for the staff or applicant?
I do. I noticed on the application, permeable paving was suggested. Was that considered?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I couldn't hear clearly. Could you kindly repeat the question, please?
I noticed that permeable paving was suggested on the application. Have you considered that?
I did talk to the contracting company, and this was the original contract that they had billed me for, and they were not willing to change the permeable stone to the permeable stone option. Also, the length. This was their claim. They said the length of the driveway and the PSI strength might work better if it is one solid piece of concrete.
I agree with Ms. Lubinecki and Ms. Miccine on the concept of 2 strips to drive on with a sensible space between them so that the water can then drain into that middle area. That's my comment.
Okay, Commissioner Davis, do you have any questions or comments for the staff or applicant?
Yes, this is Commissioner Davis. I think the reasonable option is to certainly take into consideration 2 separate strips leading up to the back area. It certainly should be considered.
Okay, any further questions or comments?
I do have a comment that if the strips are to be used, that when it goes to, I believe that's planning and zoning, that they specify the width of the center piece so that it doesn't wind up like the one on 4th Street.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Les.
that was a question from Commissioner Frazier again, or comment. Commissioner Davis, you didn't have any other questions or comments?
No, I did not.
Okay, Councilman Les, do you have any question or comments for the staff or the applicant?
Yes, Mike Les. What's being proposed is almost 1,500 square feet of impervious surface. And in fact, if you look at, I can't tell from the drawing because of course, I don't have an architectural drawing. I've got where the 2 buildings are. It's almost like there's no backyard to this house anymore with this pad. Now, as was pointed out, the ratio of the strips, the concrete strips, is not correct on 4th Street. The one that is correct, that was designed by an engineer, is the one in the 300 block of Montgomery Street on the north side. And that house was built in 1988. And those strips have not heaved, and they actually go to the back of the house where it then goes into a pad for the garage. And it is preferable, but the most preferable is a pervious surface. Now, I don't know what the contractor's telling the applicant, other than apparently the applicant signed a contract with them before he came and talked to the city. And I think that's an issue. But again, that's his business. But the fact that the contractor says he doesn't want to do it now, well, that's not what we're about. We're about in ensuring several things. The historic nature of the improvements from an architectural perspective, and the other thing that we're constantly looking at is the environment and pervious surfaces, so the water runs on the property, stays on the property before it runs down to our streams and rivers. So I'm totally in disagreement with this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Would the applicant like to address any of the questions that have been presented to him?
Sure. I just, this is the first time I'm meeting under such circumstances, or is the first property in the historic district. I was not aware initially when I had purchased this property that this was in the historic location, but once that awareness, once I was aware, I took adequate steps to follow the guidelines to meet the needs of the historic district, and I will abide by the suggestions definitely presented by the committee. My initial application was on February, and after that, there was a lot of things that happened that delayed to this point with the COVID and everything. I know I wanted to thank everybody for having a virtual meeting, but I definitely will take into consideration the committee's suggestions and try to redo the contract and get the project successfully completed.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Les again. As I understand the applicant, he said he was not aware that this property was in the historic district. I mean, there's signs on top of street signs that say historic district all throughout the historic district. Is that what the applicant is saying? He was not aware that this property was in the historic district?
That was my understanding, and my understanding was that he is willing to withdraw this application and do what the guidelines are for the historic district.
And again, there's some hard requirements, and then there's some suggested requirements. As was pointed out, permeable surfaces when we're putting in driveways and parking pads are preferred. I mean, this is a wide driveway. It's 10 feet wide. And then it goes in the back and it almost covers the whole backyard. And again, I from my perspective, I just don't see how that fits with this sensitive historic area down there. But again, those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, you're welcome. Would the applicant like to withdraw the agenda item and resubmit it at a later date?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Is this Director Christian?
Ms. Lubinecki.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lewinecki.
Mr. Chairman, based on what I was hearing from everybody up and down the line, except maybe Mr. Les, Councilman Les, I'm thinking that rather than make the applicant withdraw and then come back in another meeting, I wonder if he would be open to us basically doing something different, which would be denying his application for the 100 feet of concrete, but approving an application for the 2 strips with the appropriate width, and somebody else needs to define what that is, with a pad in the back that doesn't start anywhere sooner than the back of the house or something. Would that be something that we might be able to do to move his project along a little bit too? Because otherwise he'll have to wait for another month.
Right.
Okay, would the applicant be willing to make adjustments to his application with the suggested changes?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, would the staff be able to work with the applicant to determine the proper distance between the 2 ribbons for the driveway and assure that that would be that work would be done?
Good evening. This is Director Pulley again. Staff will have to coordinate with the Office of the Fire Marshal, just so they're more apt at the various guidelines for design and construction of driveways and so forth. However, planning staff will ensure that it meets zoning requirements.
Great, thank you. Can I entertain a motion for this application with the proposed changes, and whoever makes that motion, can they please state that for the record?
This is Karen Lubinecki, and I would like to make a motion that we approve HDC. Oops, is this, yeah, this is 061, is this 20, this is 2020, right? Yeah, this is 2020, a request to install a 100-foot driveway to garage, that the application be approved with the modification that instead of a solid concrete driveway, that there be 2 ribbon strips appropriately distanced towards zoning and zoning regulations, with the understanding that a pad may be built in a solid pad might be built in the back, starting no greater than the rear of the house.
Okay,
This is Commissioner.
have a second.
Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Davis, I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Lubinecki and a second by Commissioner Davis to approve HDC 061-2020 with the added amendments from Commissioner Lubinecki. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item agenda number 6, HDC 070-2020. Would the staff like to present that, please?
Yes, good evening again, Commission. My name is Joshua Mitchum, Planner 2. The applicant is making 2 requests tonight for 26 Post Office Avenue. The first set of requests are to perform exterior renovations, including a repainting of windows, shutters, doors, and the porch base, as well as the painting of the porch floor base. The second set of requests are retroactive approvals for exterior renovations, including the replacement of the roof, replacement of the exterior door, replacement of the windows, and the painting of porch railings. That concludes the report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Miccine, you have any questions or comments for the applicant or the staff?
I guess my one comment is there no way for you to put grids back in the in the new windows? I'd really like you to replace the roof, but
We did consider that option. It might be the sticker type, which might not stay that long, and
no, that would not be appropriate, I don't think.
that was the only option that I could think of. But again, that doesn't justify to a buyer about the quality of the work we do.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. I'm disappointed that you didn't realize you were in an historic district and put in the incorrect windows and an incorrect roof.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. The thing, I'm so sorry. It was an auction property, and the house was in a very bad shape when I got it.
I understand that. There are plenty of houses in the neighborhood that have been in bad shape, that have kept their metal roofs, had the correct replacement window put in. So that's all I have to say.
Does the staff have a current picture of these, what the property looks like as of today or as of recently with all the proposed changes? Or with all of the changes that have been done before their approval?
There was a copy in your packet that says current underneath it.
Thank you, Brooke.
Yep.
Commissioner Miccine, you have any further questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner, do you have any questions or comments for the staff or the applicant?
Was that me, Rob? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Your voice broke up.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Any questions or comments?
Well, a comment at least, and that basically I'm echoing Ms. Miccine. This house has, frankly, sir, been a disappointment on every level that you've been considering. It may have been not in great shape. The house right next to it, which is virtually identical, had 6/6 windows, which might have been a hint to you. And the house is actually extremely historic, based, I think it's about an 1840s era house in this community. So the damage that you have done to this house and its fabric is actually considerable. And so it's kind of a disappointment on all levels. And to give you approval, I have great difficulty approving the retrograde, the applications that you've done for that. So the staff, can you refresh me on what level of tax credits we can remove from this?
It would be reduced to 5%, and he would still have to apply for that, which could also still get denied.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to comment on comments from Commissioner Lubinecki?
Ms. Lubinecki, I mean, I honestly didn't know this property. I had not even seen before I purchased it. It was an auction property, and like I said, by the time I realized I had, I started taking all the steps necessary with the guidance from the HDC office, following the protocol and the steps. There was considerable damage inside the house also, with the roof leaking, and my intent was only to save the structure, and That is why I'm here.
Well, you did a considerable amount of work without knowing then. I mean, replacing windows and getting contracts for roofs and everything, sir, is a fairly substantial amount of work on, to say nothing of the porch, is a fairly substantial amount of work and to claim ignorance for what the structure actually was. I'm sorry. So I'll shut up.
Okay, if you don't have any further questions, I'll move to Commissioner Frazier. Do you have any comments or questions for the staff or the applicant?
A question for the applicant. He just said it was an option property. What does that mean?
He stated that
It
it
was
was an auction. The property was
Oh,
bought at auction.
auction. Gotcha. Okay. I must comment on the internet. There are several companies that make grids for aftermarket windows that are geared to specific manufacturers. And those could go into those windows. And they're pretty acceptable. Also, I noticed that the railing is not painted. Will that be painted white? Porch railing?
The porch railing is intended to be white. Just the porch floor and the window shutters was change of color requested.
A question for staff. Is the color he proposes, which we can't see, on the list of acceptable colors?
This is Brooke
Excuse me,
speaking.
Go ahead, Brooke.
I believe the original shutters were black, and the original door was white. I can't really make out what the floor of the porch color was, but it looks like it may have been a gray color.
No, my question was, are the colors he proposes on the list or on the colors we hope people will choose from?
Yes, there is a dark blue. I can't think of the name, but there is a dark blue color on the approved color list.
Okay.
Yes, if I may, this is Joshua Mitchell, Planner 2. The porch railing and the porch floor base were intended to be painted, I believe, in indigo blue, which is Sharon Williams swatch number 6531 on the list.
The railing?
Yes, the porch railing.
The railing would conform better to the neighborhood if it were white.
Just the railing, not the spindles. Is that correct, staff?
Yes, according to the application just states that the work that was completed was the porch railing itself, yes.
It has not been painted as of today.
No, this is Brooke speaking. It was my understanding the porch railings would be painted white and the porch floor would be painted indigo blue.
Okay.
Any further questions, Commissioner Frazier?
No.
Commissioner Davis, do you have any questions or comments for the staff or the applicant?
Yes, this is Commissioner Davis. Just to keep things moving along here, I think overall we still have to acknowledge the fact that most of these applicants who may be unaware that they're actually in a historic district for whatever the circumstances may be, and then actually point out the effort or take the effort to technically circle back to us and try to get some sort of guidance from us. We certainly keep that in mind overall. I think with this applicant, I think we should probably try to give him as much recommendations or suggestions which will be beneficial to us in order to move forward. No further comment.
So noted. Any further questions for the applicant? Commissioner Davis, any further question or comment?
No.
Councilman Liz, you have any questions or comments for the
Yeah,
staff?
Yeah, I have several. The issue about, I don't know what windows the applicant used, his contractor used. But I mean, I saw 1/4-inch increments, so I assume that they were custom made for the house. So the grids shouldn't have been a problem. But the real issue here, and maybe somebody on staff can, how many stop work orders were issued for this house?
This is Brooke speaking. I know code enforcement was out there at least 2 times, but I don't know if they issued 2 stop work orders or maybe
Okay.
one was a warning. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I've done some building myself in the city many years ago. And when you get a stop work order, you find out you haven't done something correct, you stop your contractors. I'm sure the applicant was under some pressure from the contractors. They wanted to move ahead. They want to get their money. The fact that this is an auction house, that indicates to me it's a flip. It's not a house that the applicant's going to live in. And as Ms. Lubinecki pointed out, we've got too few Civil War era houses in the city of Laurel. Some of them are still in existence, some on Prince George Street, some down near the river. So that brings me to my last issue. The applicant has said the roof was leaking. It was a tin roof, is that correct, Brooke? And
Correct.
tin roofs have to be maintained, having had one on the previous house I had, Laurel. They've got pinholes have got to be repaired. You have to paint them every so many years. And when they get to the point where they can't be repaired, then you do what a house on Montgomery Street did, a house on Prince George Street did, and some partial roofs throughout the historic district, you replace them with tin, standing seam tin roofs. They're better than they used to be because they're powder coated. And when they shoot the juice to that paint process, that paint's on there for 20 or 30 years or 40 years. The red roof down on Route 1 across from Denny's, it's been over 30 years now that roof's been up there. So it's not a question that you're going to get more durability out of a shingle roof. And a shingle roof on flat, almost flat roofs like porches and carports, they're not good because the ice and water gets underneath the shingles. And yes, they are a bit more expensive, but you get back what you pay for. Now, I'm appalled that they tore this roof off. And I think that it has come time for, at least from my perspective, to state my case that I'm going to disapprove this application for the roof. Tell them to take off the shingles and put a standing seam metal roof on there. We cannot continue to allow people to say, oh, I didn't know it was in the historic district. I don't know where the auction took place, but I sure as heck would have gone to see the property before I bid on it. But this is a flip. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the applicant intends to live in it. We've heard that on Prince George Street down near Mrs. Miccine. House came up for sale eventually. So again, this house is, I didn't realize it was 1840. I knew it was Civil War era. And I know Karen and her husband do a good job in researching how old these houses are. But I'm appalled. These are the houses that appear in some of Old House Journal in the back, where people have messed them up. But again, the indigo blue, I did in fact look at my, I think Karen and I both have color wheels. And the indigo blue almost matches the Williamsburg blue for dark blue. So again, I'm appalled. I will not vote for this application in hindsight. I will vote to have the roof removed and standing seam tin roofs installed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Would the applicant like to comment on Councilman Les' recommendation?
It is just the couple of concerns that the points that came up was the stop work order on the property was issued, but I had not changed anything structural. It was for demo purposes only, and it was around that time when the stop work order was issued. I had not. I believe that was, and the second stop work order was a repeat of the first because I was out of town. When the first one was issued, I was not aware. By the time I realized the second note was already there, and I did go directly to the office to talk. The second point was the concern about the historic authenticity of this roof. I was not, I mean, I do know that I said this before, I was not aware. And there was significant damage inside the house from water leak. Even now, the basement carries marks from the amount of water that was inside the property. That was the only reason that motivated me to, I need to get this roof, otherwise I'm going to lose the structure of the house also. And I never had to deal with a house that was condemned, but those were my primary worries. I had, the auction was held at PG County Courthouse, and I had not even seen the property when I bid on it, and I bought it.
Okay, well, we respect that, but you had stated earlier you wanted to do what was right with regards to being in the historic district. And I think the majority of the commissioners have expressed their concern for what you have already done. And I think moving forward, you need to try to work with the community that you live in, the historic district that you're in, and try to take a look at your project and address some of the items that are major items. 1, the roof. 2, the windows. 3, the door. Those 3 things were significantly changed on this structure, and they significantly changed the appearance of the structure. So you may want to circle back around and maybe put standing seam roof on the porch area. Definitely put window grids in the windows and look at a previous picture of your door and find something is closely resembles that, or something that resembles some of the other doors on your street. The oval shaped door is definitely out of character for that house. Maybe if you're willing to do that, the commission would be willing to look at this application in a more favorable manner.
Yes, I definitely will take the committee's suggestions. If I may point out just one thing, if I had kept the existing roof, it would have been monetarily better for me, if I may say, and might have helped with the historic district appeal also. I mean, so my intent was just quite honest, that, you know, by actually redoing the roof, it was more, you know, it was more better for that house at that situation. That is the only thing that motivated me.
Okay, I think we understand what your motivations were, but you know, maybe if you can circle back around and see some of our concerns and maybe address some of those concerns, I think the commission is more favorable towards your project.
I surely will.
So you want to?
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Les.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion. I'll make the motion we table this item and allow the applicant to come in and discuss the issues that have been raised in this meeting with the goal toward mitigating some of them, as you suggested, and that he come back next month and make a presentation of what he's decided to do.
Okay, do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Patrick Davis, Commissioner Patrick Davis. I'll second that motion.
Okay, Brooke, we have a motion to table HDC 070-2020 by Councilman Les and seconded by Commissioner Davis. Can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7, HDC 063-2020. Would the staff like to present that?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow members. This is Monte Burrows. The applicant is seeking Historical District Commission approval to resurface center block walls to brick. The applicant would like to change existing center block wall to red brick. The current center block color is gray. The center block is located on the left side of the building around the existing outdoor patio. The applicant is also seeking approval to construct an outdoor patio enclosure. The enclosure will consist of a new metallic roof, 4 skylights in the roofing system, and a red brick facade. The new construction will be located on the left side of the existing building. Staff recommends that the Historical District Commission approve with the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain approval of their amended site and landscape application from the City of Laurel Planning Commission. That concludes the reading. The applicant is on the phone for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Commissioner Miccine, do you have any questions or comments for the staff, the applicant?
I do not. I'm looking forward to the changes. Sounds wonderful.
Okay, Commissioner Lubinecki, you have any questions or comments for the staff applicant?
My only question is for the applicant. I wasn't clear. Is this going to be become an all-weather? Is it fully enclosed, Nadal?
Hi, Karen, and rest of the committee. It's Nadal Hishma speaking on the line. I have my architect, Richard Newland, here with us as well. Yes, this is a fully enclosure expansion of the building. So we're using the existing footprint of the building to enclose it, and then the roof structure will be 60% skylight.
Okay. Actually, I think it looks wonderful, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the support.
Any further questions, Commissioner Lubinecki?
No.
Commissioner Frazier, you have any questions or comments for the staff or the applicant?
I have only one question. Will the door and the siding of 506 also be painted to match the upstairs?
I was going to ask you guys that, because I would like to, now that we have some downtime this week or the next couple of weeks with the circumstances of our operations, can I go ahead and paint that trim white now because I notice it's peeling? Or do I need to put an application to that? Because that exterior door was approved as a stock door and it never was painted. I mean, it was just placed in, just primed. So I think now is a good time to scrape it down, prime that metal door and exterior trim for 506.
Now, would that match the shutters on the second floor?
I was just going to do it the white that's there now that was originally approved. Do you want the doors? Are you asking if the doors and trim are matching the shutters upstairs?
Yes.
I wasn't processing it that way, but I guess it can. I just thought it would stick out way too much to have a big dark door. I thought the white that was approved, we'd just paint it with exterior white.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. Well, thank you. If you can give me some guidance on that, I'm all ears. I mean, I would like to get it done sooner than later. Just that door I'm speaking of.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see if they entertain any other thoughts to that. Commissioner Davis, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant or staff?
Actually, just a comment. I'm in full support. I'm in full support of what they're doing. As long as he doesn't remove the lamb dish from their platter or from their dish. So certainly, I look forward to revisiting that location with the modification. So no questions. In full support.
And no menu. Thank you for the support. No menu changes.
Wonderful.
That's great. Councilman Les, you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I'm fine with this application, Mr. President.
Okay. From what I'm looking, the only question I have, the majority of the work is not going to be visible from Main Street. Is that correct? In my thinking on that, the roof's still going to be flat with a few skylights.
Correct. The only thing that I believe will be protruding from Main Street, and Richard can support this a little bit, you might see protrudence of the skylights from the street view, but I don't believe it's very much.
Great. Wonderful.
Mr. President, I did have one question. This is Mike Les. Nadal, are you going to put any air handling equipment up on the roof of the new addition?
The air handling equipment will go on the roof that falls behind it.
Okay, so if it's visible from the street, you put a parapet around it?
I will put a structure around it, but it's so far back. It will be on the. Are you familiar with my back alley? It will
yeah.
Yeah, I know you are. but it will be on that garage roof. That's
Okay, so-
actually a little lower than the new roof.
Okay, so if it's visible from Main Street or Fifth Street, you'll go ahead and hide it behind some kind of structure.
I can do that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
And then a follow-up question to that. The existing condensing units, they'll be moved back to the back as well?
The existing ones that we're looking at in this photo,
Correct.
those are our air handlers for the mini splits, which are hard plumbed in. I wouldn't feel comfortable moving those.
Okay, will they have a structure around them?
We can do that.
Okay. Councilman Les, is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, I think to the extent possible, as we renovate or add to some of these properties, if they can hide some of the mechanical behind false parapets, it enhances the value of the property and the street.
So Mike, your original question, are we talking about the air handlers that are there right now or the new ones that are going to be using to supply the addition?
Yeah, take a look at what's there and see if you can hide those two. I know they're hard plumbed because I went by and looked at them as much as I could see, and I assumed they were all hard plumbed.
Yeah. And
Okay, thanks.
once you move one of those things around, there's no guaranteeing they're going to go back to what they used to. And then you're adding 50 to 60 foot of supply line, which I'm not comfortable with on a smaller unit like that. But if you need those fenced in, I guess I'd have to ask for some recommendations of material.
What I've seen, Nadell, is false parapets put up that act as a screen. That's
okay,
all.
yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
They don't move anything. I'm not asking you to move anything.
No,
I agree with you. Don't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, can I entertain a motion for HDC 063-2020?
I move.
I make a motion.
I move that we approve HDC 63-2020 for 504 Main Street.
Do I have a second?
Yes, with the slight amendment that the air handling units that are currently visible and the new one that's going to be put in the rear have a parapet installed if they are visible.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion by Chairman Frazier and a second by Chairman Lubinecki. Can you please call the roll?
I think
Go ahead.
I think Ms. Frazier has to approve my amendment to her.
This is Marlene Frazier, and I accept Ms. Lubinecki's amendment.
Ms. Lubinecki?
Yes.
Councilmember Les?
Yes.
Ms. Miccine?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, I just want to thank you all for your support in this, especially, Margie, Mike, Karen, I've appreciated your support all these years, and thanks again for seeing my vision.
Oh, I think I'm really looking forward to this and to actually experiencing it.
Yeah, I think with the new times, as far as social distancing goes, and who knows how the county is going to ask us to reopen as far as seating, I think it's coming at a good time for us, actually. We're going to need the additional layout.
Great.
Well, we wish you luck, and I know it's trying times to be in the restaurant business, so good luck.
Well, thank you. We're doing our best.
Okay, moving on to item Agenda 8, HDC 074-2020 for 909 Montgomery Street. Would the staff like to present this proposal?
Good evening again, Mr. Chair and fellow HDC members. This is Monte Burrows, Planner 2. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a pressure-treated wooden board-on-board fence with a gate. The fence will be 6 feet high along the left side, right side, and rear of the property. The fence will be connected to the rear of the house. The gate will allow vehicles and pedestrians to access the rear driveway and property. Staff recommends that the HDC approve with the following condition. The applicant shall obtain a City of Laurel fence permit. That concludes the reading, and the applicant is on the phone for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. And I'll open it up to Commissioner Miccine for any questions or comments for the staff or applicant.
So I think I just got one of my questions answered, that the fence will be 6 feet the entire way around. Is that correct?
Monty, you want to comment on that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And my other question is, when I drove by, there was a fence already along the back of the property line. Is that a neighbor's fence or a fence that's going to be replaced?
That's a fence, if I believe, will be replaced.
Okay, thank you. Those were both of my questions.
Okay. Commissioner Lubinecki, you have any questions or comments for the applicant or staff?
I have a question, I guess, for the applicant. On the driveway side particularly, that's a pretty solid fence that you're putting there. And I have no problem with you having the solid board on board all the ways around. And I assume you're going to have the back side of it inside. You view the inside as is appropriate. Would you be open to changing the front yard part, the part that we see from the street, to be less dense or solid, to be that kind of fence? I forget what we call them, and if somebody can remind me, where the boards are kind of, you can almost see through them, but you really can't. Just for that section of the fence, so it's not quite so solid.
Like shadow box.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President, this is Mike Les. This fence, this is the house right next to the union offices up there. This fence will be around the rear of the property, correct?
No, there's a gate and it goes all the ways on the side and all the ways around the side and the back, all three sides, I believe.
Yeah, what I'm looking at is the original application. Add wooden fence 6 feet that will border the rear property. And I assume that the gate will be at the back of the property leading into the backyard. Maybe I read this wrong.
That's
Did
what
I read it?
Would the applicant like to comment any further on that? Do we have an applicant for the HGC 074, Charles Goldston? Mr. Goldston or somebody going to be representing this application?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in the application and the zoning analysis, it says the fence will be 6 feet high, left side, right side, and rear of the property. So it's more than just the rear of the property.
Yeah, I know, Karen. I'm looking at the application that they submitted. And I have no problem with what they submitted. But if they're going to run a 6-foot fence down the left side of the property, that's the house that just sold to the left of them. So again, Brooke, did you talk to them about this?
They said they were going to be on this call, but apparently they are not on this call.
Okay. Being
See,
that
the typed application, it says something that says 6 feet in rear. And when I go back to the original application, they hand wrote, adding wooden fence 6 feet that will border the rear. And I'm willing to approve that because they're sitting right next to the union hall. And but again, if they're going to run 6 feet around the front of the property, there's a little bit of difficulty with that.
This is Brooke speaking. There should be a like a Google, like a Earth Maps print in your packet that shows where the gate will be going around the property, and it does not show being in the front.
Yeah, well, I hear what you're saying, Brooke, but when I look at the package, I see swinging gate at the back of the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
No, I think you're looking, Mike, I think you may be looking at the wrong property. The swinging gate and where they marked off the property are in two different places. Okay, the swinging gate is like 2 houses over, but if you look at the property that's right next to the, I'm looking at the image that Brooke that you sent us, the Google map, and and somebody outlined. That's what you're talking about, right? Somebody outlined where, I assume that's where the fence would be. Is that correct?
Karen, thank. I'm looking at something. I'm looking at an aerial of Knight Street and Montgomery Street with the with the insulators hall in the middle,
right?
And the property to the left of it, which I assume is 909, and there's annotated swinging gate, and the swinging gate arrow points to the rear of the house.
Well, not on the. I'm looking at a different version of that.
I think you're looking at the same thing. The gate appears to be lined up with the back of the house. So it's not near the front of the house. It's near the back of the house in front of the parking area that's in the back.
Right.
Not,
Margie.
Not the rear of the yard. It's the rear of the house.
Right.
So I'm assuming that this fence will go around that. It's got a pretty big backyard, and it'll be 6 feet, and the 6 feet will start at the back of the house with a swinging gate in the driveway on the left-hand side. Correct?
That's what it seems, I believe, Margie.
Correct.
Yeah, and then it also goes around 6 feet, and in fact, on the other side connects to the house. So they're blocking with that full 6 feet on both sides of the house.
Okay.
So that was my concern, that those two pieces, like where the swinging gate is and where actually on the right-hand side of the house is where it's going to look really massive at the 6 foot level, and asking them to use some other slightly more visible shadow box at those two spots. I don't have a problem with them having a solid fence around the other way, though I think the other is preferable, would be preferable.
Yeah.
That's a lot of solid fence.
Well, we've always suggested the board on board because that allows the breeze to get through the fence, which it doesn't with a solid fence.
Right.
But again, if that's what they want in the backyard. Is that how you understand it, Brooke?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, I wish the applicant were here so we could talk to them about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And see if they actually considered the board on board, and if so, why they didn't choose that.
Yeah, and actually aesthetically, a board on board looks better.
It
I'm
does.
sure you
Yes,
want to
absolutely.
block out the Union Hall.
Right, but
Yeah.
that the board, it would pretty much would block it out. I mean,
Yep. Well, you can't see much through a board on board, but it does allow the air to get through.
This is Marlene. I did have a question about the fence in the front. Alongside the left part of the property, there is a chain link fence there. Are they planning on removing that?
So the applicant is not available, Commissioner Frazier, but I don't know if the staff will know the answer to that question. We can ask Brooke or one of the staff members.
Could I go ahead and make a motion to table this until the applicant is available?
Certainly, that's
I'll
This is
second that.
okay, Brooke. We have a motion by Commissioner Miccine and a second by Councilman Les to table this HDC 074-2020. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
yes,
Ms. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, Brooke. Now moving on to HDC 055, 056, and 057-2020. Let the record show that Commissioner Davis will recluse himself from any voting on this as he's a applicant of the agenda.
Good evening again, Commissioners. This is Joshua Mitchum, Planner 2, presenting the staff report for 352 Main Street. The applicant is proposing facade alterations and additions, which include a new stone facing, 3 new metal canopies, new brick pavers, a 2-story garage renovation complete with 2 new overhead bifold doors, new rear rooftop terrace area with cable and glass railing, new exterior lighting, and 2 new wall signs. On previous actions, a special exception approval was granted by the City of Laurel Board of Appeals for rooftop bar. This is part of the project for Exclusive Blue. The applicant appeared before the HDC in December 20th, 2017 with a similar application. He's here today to resume the application, a new application, as the previous approvals have expired. That concludes the report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Chairman, so this is Patrick Davis as stated. I will recuse myself from this voting on this particular application. Just want to point out briefly, I do have my architect, Ms. Tanika Felder with Redlip Group on the line that may be able to assist with any further questions pertaining to the application.
Okay, welcome to the meeting. Let me just first say this is a pretty significant project. It'll definitely change the building, the outlook of the building, and basically the corner of C and Main. So I'm sure a lot of questions. It looks like a very nice project, but I'm sure the commissioners all have a lot of questions. So to move it along, we'll start out with Commissioner Miccine. If you have any questions or comments for Ms. Felder or Mr. Davis or the staff.
Thank you. So my first question really is about the pavement you're adding along the side of the building. I guess, you know, what's that exactly going to be like? Because I didn't quite get that in in everything I was viewing. Is it going to be, you know, are you going to dig out the grassy area so that it's flat? Is it going to be angled, fenced? Is it for seating? What?
So this is
Okay.
Tamika Felder. And thank you for having me this evening. Yes, we're going to dig it out and build a new retaining wall because it will be for seating. The paving that will be on the ground will be the same. We're going to carry the same brick pavers that are there currently for the sidewalk into the
Okay.
patio area. So we're creating a patio area on that side.
Could you repeat that? Some of you got blocked off, got knocked out. Could you repeat that last section that you were talking about, please?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I was saying is that we are going to level out that side, dig out an area to accommodate an outdoor seating area on the side. And for the paving on the ground, we are going to carry the same red brick and pattern that is currently there on the sidewalk.
And there'll be a fence around it. That's what the fence in the pictures was.
So what that is a
Railing, I guess,
we're
kind
going to
of.
do a retaining wall, a short retaining wall that
Right.
will, and then we're going to have a small fence in the front just to when it's closed, you know, when the building is closed, so that people don't just go and arbitrarily sit on the patio. So just a gate that will close off that area in the front.
Okay, so will that gate match the cable railings, or or have I missed that somewhere else?
Let me see here. The gate will match the cable railings.
Okay, and that will only be in the front, not along the
That's
sides?
correct. No, not along the side, because that area there is not that high. So we're just gonna have it's a sloped grassy area on the side. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
And so the retaining wall is just gonna be high enough to retain the dirt on that side, so we won't need fence or anything to that.
Okay, and then what does the retaining wall look like?
It's gonna be concrete and brick, so it will be brick on the inside. The concrete face you won't even see because it will be the grass. You'll see the grass from the outside, from the exterior, and inside of the patio you will see brick.
Okay, what color brick?
It would be painted the same color that we would be painting the building.
Okay, thank you. And you're not, okay, never mind. And I guess that's it for me.
So since this is so broad, why don't I go down the line and ask each of the commissioners, since we're on the patio part of the application, if they have questions or comments about the patio issue, and then maybe we can move on to different questions about different parts of the application. I think that will probably be simpler and we'll get answered. So that being said, Commissioner Obaneki, do you have any questions concerning the patio part, the retaining wall of the application?
I do not. Thank you.
And Commissioner Frazier, any questions about that part of the application?
My only question is, will there be precautions taken to protect the large Christmas tree?
Yeah, we're not touching the tree. The tree is going to remain. The only thing I think you know, just daily maintenance trimming, but the tree will remain intact.
Yeah, my concern was for construction equipment, et cetera, compacting the ground. Will you fence it off so that can happen?
We're not expecting the tree to be damaged during the construction. You know, it's hard to tell the way the roots have spread, you know, for the tree, because that is an old tree. But we don't anticipate the doing the patio will damage the roots of the tree.
Right, my concern is that it be provided with protection to prevent construction equipment from compacting the soil.
Yes, we would definitely do that because it is our intent to maintain that tree.
Good. Okay.
Councilman Les, you have any questions or comments about the patio?
No, just a comment. The brick that's there is over concrete. Because I laid those bricks 30 years ago for Larry Timian, who was in the building. So there shouldn't be too many roots underneath that portion, but some of the roots may have creeped up the hill. So you need to be careful when you're digging out up the hill a bit. That's all I have.
Sure.
Okay, and one thing I don't quite understand, because I'm looking at the plans and you're going to put two garage doors on that side of the building, and you're going to put an additional door further up the building. And it appears that the patio is going to extend all the way up to that rear door. Am I looking at the plans correctly?
Yes, you're looking at the plans correctly. That door that you see on the side, all of that takes place on the side within the brick portion of the main building. And that door is for additional egress requirements out of the building on that side onto the patio. And then those two garage doors that you see there are actually, they're going to be overhead bifold doors. So when the restaurant is in use, then you can open those doors and the patio then will become an extension of the interior of the restaurant.
Okay, so my question then, is the patio going to be the same grade as the front portion next to the sidewalk of Main Street, or
Yes.
is it stepped up?
No, the patio is going to be at the same level as the main walkway when you walk into that side, the main side door. It's that we're maintaining that same level, floor level, all the way down that patio, which is why we're doing the retaining wall.
Correct. So by that time, I would surmise, I don't know exactly, but that retaining wall is going to be at least 2 to 3 foot tall at the far end, at the rear end of the patio.
That's correct.
Okay, so you'll have the retaining wall, and then you'll have grade up to, we'll go up to the retaining wall. Is there going to be fencing or anything to keep somebody from walking off of that retaining wall?
Well, what we could do, we could add the fencing on that side that would be above that could be part of just an extension of the retaining wall. We can add a low fence just to provide the proper height, almost like a railing in a sense. Instead of a fence, I should say a railing. So we can add a railing to the top of the retaining wall, just so that we can prevent anyone from falling down the grassy level down to the patio level.
Okay, that's good. And that would probably resemble something like the other cable railings that you're proposing for the other project, or?
Yes, all the railings are consistent that we're proposing throughout the building. So we would do the same cable railing on the top of the retaining wall.
Okay, great. Further questions for the applicant or Ms. Felder? Okay, moving on, back to you, Commissioner Miccine. Do you have any other questions for the applicant on any other parts of the application?
I don't think so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any further questions for the applicant on any other parts of the application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a really exciting project, and most of it is like really terrific. But even though we had looked at it before and okayed it, I'd actually like us perhaps to revisit the idea of the stone facing, because I took another look at the surrounding buildings, not just where to the immediate right, which you can see in the picture that we all are seeing, but also the buildings down to the left. And my concern is that the stone facing is really going to add an unnecessary element in the historic district. I mean, this is a classic 1930s building. I'm guessing that's the original age just from the original windows. And the stone facade, while in many contexts that stone facade can be really nice, and I understand the design element, you know, the interest in putting something new in there. There are ways you could do with paint and things like to give some color differential that wouldn't permanently affect the facade of the building. So I'm very concerned about the stone facade, the stone facing.
This is Tanika Felder again. Yeah, we actually, I think this came up the last time that we appeared before the board, and the suggestion was made to take a look at the stone of the buildings that are further down the street. I can't remember what type of building that is. Was it a church or something like that? That's further down Main Street?
Yes.
Yes. So we had a different type of stone that was specified before, and that's when the suggestion was made to take a look at some of the other stone that's further down Main Street. And so when we appeared before the board again, we actually had changed the type of stone to be closer and look and feel to the stone that's on those buildings that we were asked to take a look at. And I thought that had you know, suffice for being able to add a new element, but still maintaining the historic character of Main Street.
Yeah, I think this is Mike. I think you were looking at, we had to take a look at the new building next to the church, which is only up about 4, you know, it's up to the next block. Again, there's a lot of elements that we're trying to tie together on Main Street, and I'm neither here nor there on the issue, except it does sort of tie together something up the street, like you said, and you changed the stone to do that, and I appreciate Karen's comment.
And I was thinking about it also, the C Street flat building, I think that has an element of that stone in it.
Yeah.
And we tried to minimize the amount of use of the stone. Again, we just wanted to bring another element to the building, and we understand the historic, you know, character of the brick, which we maintained, of course. And we only added the stone along the front of a portion of the front of along Main Street, and then just a little bit like a wainscoting type along the side of that building. I think that we're on the side of the building. So we didn't want to overwhelm the building with stone, but just to add a new element, but still maintain historic character.
This is Miss Miccine. So the new stone is the ledge cut 33 birch Eldorado stone.
It is I was looking for, my computer went out on me and I had it up here. It was the one that was approved at the last hearing that we had.
Okay.
So we had presented one, which I believe was more of a ledge stone cut, but then we went back to more of a rounder stone.
Right.
Oh, I think we have one.
So I don't have a picture of that.
We don't have a picture of that at all, so we have no idea what that looks like.
The only picture I have is identical to the original application.
Okay.
And that's the ledge stone.
We can definitely provide a sample of the stone the rounder stone that I was referring to that was approved at the last hearing.
Okay, so the sample that was given to us, the El Dorado stone is not what you're proposing?
I'm looking it up now. I'm sorry, my computer went out on me, so I had to pull the file back up. If you could just give me one moment, I will tell you the name of it.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Yeah, this is Patrick Davis. Yeah, it looks like we just have the El Dorado stone.
It's from El Dorado stone. The style is called Hillstone. The color is Lucera. So the manufacturer is El Dorado stone, but the style is called Hillstone, and it's a rounder type of stone.
Ms. Felder, could you possibly put your video on and kind of, is there any way you could show us that where you are?
Is it possible for me to share my screen?
I don't know.
Or if you could,
If you have a visual sample of it that you could present.
Or you could just Google yourself, because I'm looking at it.
Okay, where is it?
No, I mean, if you just Google El Dorado and Hillstone, since I'm guessing you're sitting at a computer already.
I am. Hang on. El Dorado Hillstone. Oops, sorry.
I'm sorry, this is Robert Love. It is located in the packet. The El Dorado stone is within the packet.
Oh.
That was presented.
Which part?
It is on page 29, I believe 29 or 30. Hold on, let me confirm that.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the paper that doesn't have.
Okay, that would be what Brooke sent out is on page 30.
Okay.
Okay, that is
the stone there.
The color is birch. Is that correct color, birch?
No, it's the Lucera. The one that's on the screen, it would be the Lucera, which is the brighter color.
Okay, yeah, but that's not what's in the packet. But okay, I see that now on the screen. Yeah, that's actually considerably different than what was in the packet.
I'm not sure what was attached in the packet. Patrick,
This is Brooke speaking. I believe at the last meeting a physical sample was brought, so we did not have an actual picture of it, and was not aware it would be an issue tonight. So.
Yeah, what's in the packet is what they call a ledge cut.
Yeah, that was the first submission.
Okay.
So this is much more like a rubble stone.
Right, correct.
Okay, Commissioner Frazier, you have any further questions for the applicant?
No, I don't.
Okay, Councilman Les, you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I'm fine.
Okay, President Clacoon, I had one question pertaining to the dumpster enclosure, or actually where the dumpsters were. Was there going to be a closure around that? And if so, what was that going to be made of?
Yes, there is a dumpster enclosure, and it will be made of the I believe it's because we have the painted CMU in that back area, and it's coming off of that portion of the building, then it was going to mimic the painted CMU that we have on the building.
Okay, so it was going to be made out of the cinder blocks or CMUs, and
That's
then
correct. And it'll be painted to match what we paint the building.
okay, and then I'm sure the opening is going to be facing the rear alley.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, and are there going to be any doors on that, or is it just going to be open?
No, there will be gates on the rear side so that you can close that off.
Okay, and they're going to match what, like the wooden siding that was proposed for the project?
Yes. So all of that will be cohesive. It's going to look like one cohesive, portion of the building in the rear.
Great. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments for the applicant, can I entertain a motion? I'm sorry. Can I entertain a motion for this application, or are there any further questions?
I make a motion that we approve, this is HDC 55-2020. Are we doing several numbers here? 5-5-2020, 5-6-2020, and are we doing all three, or are we just doing one, Rob?
Well, I thought we would address each item agenda separately as far as the questions or comments, but I was assuming we've gone through all the questions or comments for the entire project. But if there's any further questions or comments about any other aspect of the application, we can address those now. And then if there's significant changes or requirements, maybe we can just pass it all as one. If there is, then we may have to break it apart.
Commissioner Lubinecki, this is Director Pulley again.
Yes.
You can make your motion with all certificate numbers. It doesn't have to be broken up.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve HDC 055-2020, 056-2020, 057-2020.
And this is Ms. Miccine. I'll second that.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion by Commissioner Lubinecki and a second by Commissioner Miccine to approve 55, 056, and 057 2020. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Congratulations, Patrick. You want to state that you're back on the commission as far as continuing with the meeting?
Yes, this is Commissioner Patrick Davis. Thank you very much, and I will resume my my role with the HDC Commission.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9. This would be a tax credit request for 511 Prince George Street. Is there any questions or comments? I'll go down the list again, starting with Commissioner Miccine.
I have no questions or comments.
Okay, Commissioner Lubinecki.
I have no questions or comments.
Commissioner Frazier.
No questions or comments.
Commissioner Davis,
No questions or comments?
Councilman Les.
I'm good.
Okay, can I get a motion for approving this tax credit?
This is Ms. Miccine. I move we approve the tax credit for 511 Prince George Street.
I second the motion. This is Marlene Frazier.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion by Commissioner Miccine and a second by Commissioner Frazier. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Ms. Frazier,
Yes?
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, moving on to tax credit for 503A Montgomery Street, submitted by Judith Miller. You have any questions?
I will go ahead and say that I don't have any questions about any of the tax credit requests.
Well, that might be a quicker way to get through this. Commissioner Lubinecki, you have any questions about any of the 3 remaining tax credits?
I have no questions about 2 of the 3. I will recuse myself from the 3rd one, which is my application.
Good job. Commissioner Frazier, any questions for the remainder 3?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Davis?
Absolutely no questions pertaining to the other 3 applications.
Councilman Les?
I'm fine with all of them.
I'd like to move that we approve the tax credit requests for 503A Montgomery Street, 314 Montgomery Street, and 421 Prince George Street, as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, Brooke, I have a motion by Commissioner Miccine and a second by Councilman Les to approve the 3 remaining tax credits, 503A, 314, and 421. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Miccine,
Yes.
Councilmember Les,
Yes.
Ms. Lubinecki,
I think I have to recuse myself from this because my application is in this motion.
correct. Ms. Frazier,
Yes?
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, moving on to staff approval. Commissioner Miccine, you have any questions for any of the staff approvals?
I do not. Thank you.
Commissioner Lubinecki, any questions for any of the staff approvals?
I do not.
Commissioner Frazier?
I have one question. HDC 062-2020 was a staff approval for the property on Post Office Avenue. Was that before or after he did everything else without approval?
This was before. This is Brooke speaking.
So he applied for this and then he went ahead and did everything else?
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe this application came in for the staff approval in February. And then it was in March where he had started the other work that he didn't have approval for.
So he was aware of the
So
historic
he was,
Yeah, well, yeah, that would
So he was
indicate that
basically-
that would indicate that he knew it was in the historic district.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is
so that means
crazy.
he lied to us. So he lied to us completely during his
Well,
presentation?
half truths, quarter truths, no truths, they're all untrue. But again, that's where I start to have problems with some of these people flipping properties, because they'll say anything, almost say anything. But again, I'm going to ask that we hold that one back. Have you already approved the tax credit, Brooke?
I don't
that?
believe they have not applied for a tax credit. This is
Okay,
Brooke
so
speaking.
we just need to make sure we hold that back and put it all together with the rest of the issues up there. I have no other problem with anything else.
Okay, and then I guess Commissioner Davis, any questions or comments about the staff approvals?
No questions or comments.
Okay, and that being said, there will be no new business. Any other questions about tonight's meeting from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Led. I want to thank the staff for a good job. This is, we sort of got backed up here with everything that's going on, and they've done a great job. Brooke's done an excellent job, along with Christian and Robert and our other planner. These are difficult times, but we need to continue to move things along so that when we open back up for business, for like Olive on Main said, they got to do this because they're going to have to expand and adhere to the CDC guidelines as far as distance. And I want to also thank the other application from Patrick. The one thing that ties his proposal together with not just the architectural issues, but the fact that his sign says something on Main. And I think if the restaurants would all adhere to that, they'll have some additional clout. They come back online and they're able to open back up. So again, our thanks to Patrick, to Nobel, and to the staff for a job well done.
I second that.
Yes.
Same here.
I echo those sentiments as well. The only other thing that I might want to just put out there is on Main Street, I've noticed trash cans were sometimes overflowing. I know the commuter lot across the street from us, the grass is very tall and untidy, which normally does not happen. And I knew that the city used to spray for like grass and different things growing up in the sidewalks, and it seems like it's getting out of hand. I know with everything that's going on that those probably aren't major items, but is the city addressing any of those things as far as keeping the appearance of Main Street up in this social distance quarantining time?
Yeah, I'm sure Christian might have a comment, but let me just say this. I did discuss this with Bill Goddard. If you see something on Main Street, overflowing trash can, geez, the grass is up too high, please report it on the Laurel app, because I'll respond to it right away. We want to make sure that people know we're still open for business on Main Street, and there's nothing worse than an overflowing trash can. I will mention, and Christian can comment here, they bought super gulper trash cans where they, smash it down. We bought the first ones, but Christian, correct me if I'm incorrect, we're going to lease the next group, correct? Because in fact, then they maintain them as far as the graphics and so on. But
That is
please,
correct.
but
That is correct, Councilman Les. For the next round of big belly trash receptacles, we are looking to lease them where we will have some control over the messaging, the graphics, the maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. And I would just like to echo Councilman Les's sentiments. If you do see something, please don't hesitate to respond on the My Laurel app, because staff is still checking that, and they could pay attention to it rather quickly. And also, if you have any comments or concerns, don't hesitate to email us.
thank you.
Thank you.
This is Marlene Frazier. I'd like to bring something up for consideration. The people that remove the metal roofs, when you remove them, what you find underneath of them is cedar shakes. If they desperately need to not replace it with metal, they're beginning to make some very credible shingle lookalikes for cedar shakes, which might be a better alternative. Just something to think about.
Good point,
Thanks.
Frazier.
Thank you. Christian, this is Christian again. Staff will make note of that and make sure applicants are aware of that.
I do have, oh, this is Margie. I've got a question or a comment. Could we, or Mike, give me the address of the house that has what you think is the appropriate 2 strips of concrete, so that we could have sort of a standard to aim towards?
Yeah.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, if it's on the odd side and it's next to the split foyer. That driveway was designed by an engineer. And I think I've pointed out in the past, it's 30 years old and it hasn't heaved because they tied the 2 strips together with rebar and then allowed that wide planting strip in the middle where the grass could grow. And Bill and Ellen Groman put the block entranceway in, and the 2 strips go to the back of the house, and then it widens into the parking pad for the 2-car garage that's back there. Most people don't even know it's back there. But the problem with the one on Prince George Street is they made the concrete too wide and the green space too little. But again, I'll get the address and send it around to the Historic District Commission members.
Thank you.
Mike, when you do, will you measure the space in between?
Yeah, and again, there was an engineer that did that from Greenman Peterson for me. They did some research into strips, and there was a lot of strips around Laurel, and they hadn't been replaced over the years because they heaved. But he designed it with this rebar, the 1-inch rebar left to right. And you go look at it, it has not heaved to this date. And that was installed in like 1988. So that's 88, 98, it's 30 years old already. I'll send that around, okay? And I'll go up and measure, okay?
Okay.
I don't have the plans anymore because I gave them to the current owners of the property.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. And again, a good job, long meeting, but good job by staff and the commissioners.
Yes,
I'd like
thank you. Go ahead. Margie,
All right,
you have-
thank you, everybody.
I'd like to move.
This is Brooke speaking. I would like to add one thing.
Yeah.
Before our next meeting, please review your packets early and get with staff with any major issues, so that way we can avoid having to table half the agenda.
Yep.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Wait.
Motion to
Thank you.
adjourn.
Have a good night.
Wait, this is Christian, and we just need to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Right, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, this is Margie, I make a motion we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
All right.